A small town called Yorkton, located in the southeast of the province of Saskatchewan, found itself at the center of events shrouded in mystery from the very beginning. A 16-year-old resident of the town, Mikayla Barley, vanished without a trace on the morning of April 12, 2016, leaving her family, friends, and the police perplexed and searching for answers. The morning of that day was no different from any other. Mikayla and her mother Paula were getting ready as usual, after which her grandmother drove the girl to the Sacred Heart High School, located near Hopkins Lake. However, it soon became clear that this day would be far from ordinary. At 10 o'clock in the morning, Mikayla's friend Shelby received a cryptic message from her saying, "Hey, I need help." Unfortunately, Shelby was unable to read it in time, as she had left her phone at home before school. By the time she returned and saw the message, it had already lost its relevance. 20 minutes after the first message, a second one arrived from Mikayla. "Never mind. I figured it out myself." This was the last time anyone close to her received any communication from Mikayla. As it was later discovered, she had left the school without waiting for her grandmother, who was supposed to pick her up. On the day of Mikayla's disappearance, her friends, including Shelby, recalled that the girl had been discussing a potential trip to Moose Jaw or Prince Albert. She had also mentioned vacation plans with her family in Regina. Some of her companions noticed Mikayla's somewhat unusual behavior in the recent period. In particular, she had talked about a boy named Josh, but did not go into details. The school teacher described Mikayla as upset and inattentive during classes that day. In the evening, Paula tried to contact her daughter, but to no avail. At first, she assumed that Mikayla might be at her music lessons, as they were preparing for a concert and had rehearsals every evening. However, the girl was not there. Soon after, Mikayla's grandmother went to Paula's workplace to inform her about the granddaughter's disappearance. The police immediately got involved in the case. The primary task was to find out what Mikayla had been doing in the last hours before she went missing. It was established that the girl had asked a friend to give her a ride to the bank. It was also found out that Mikayla had contacted the TD Bank support service several times, checked her account balance, and transferred $25. However, these actions did not provide any insight into what had happened to the girl. At Paula's house, the police also found no evidence that Mikayla had planned to go anywhere. The money from the emergency fund box remained untouched, and her phone charger was at home. This ruled out the possibility that the girl had intended to leave town for an extended period. On the evening of April 12, Paula Barley officially reported her daughter missing to the police. Upon returning home to find photos of Mikayla to aid in the search, Paula was overcome with fear. Nothing indicated any plans on Mikayla's part, and the more the mother pondered the situation, the fewer answers she found. Between 8 and 9 o'clock in the evening, Mikayla sent a series of messages to her friends, including her ex-boyfriend. In one of them, she wrote that she needed help, but did not specify what kind. The girl also mentioned a boy who sympathized with someone and was crying. Mikayla's ex-boyfriend recalled that she had told him about her feeling of unhappiness and her desire to leave town for a few days. A friend named Amy mentioned Christopher, a person who was supposedly going to come to Saskatchewan to meet with Mikayla. The police carefully studied the events leading up to the disappearance. On April 11, Mikayla had met with friends for lunch, during which she shared her thoughts about a possible trip. Her behavior raised some questions among her companions, but no one attached much significance to it. After lunch, the girl returned to school, where the teacher noticed her depressed state. While communicating with the police, friends and family tried to recall as many details as possible. Some remembered Mikayla's conversations about a boy named Josh, as well as about Christopher, who was allegedly planning a visit. These mentions added to the mystery of the situation but did not provide a clear answer. The disappearance of Mikayla Barley became a real enigma for Yorkton, which has yet to be solved. The girl's relatives and friends still cannot understand what really happened that day. Shortly after her disappearance, the police focused on examining Mikayla's contacts and her possible plans, but the solution remains elusive to this day. The mysterious disappearance of Mikayla Barley has become one of the most puzzling and talked-about events in the history of the small town of Yorkton. The investigation began amid contradictory testimonies and numerous unanswered questions, and new details that emerged only heightened the tension and uncertainty of the situation. The first key event occurred on the day of Mikayla's disappearance. Surveillance cameras captured the girl near the school at around 3 p.m. It seemed that she was waiting for someone. This fact immediately caught the attention of the police, as Mikayla's mother, Paula, insisted that her daughter never missed classes, including violin lessons. About 4 hours passed after the disappearance before the mother reported the incident to the police. Mikayla's phone records did not provide any significant leads. By the following morning at 7 o'clock, her phone was turned off. An analysis of her activity showed no calls that could shed light on the girl's plans. The only clues were her actions on Snapchat, Instagram, and Kik apps, known for their confidentiality. The investigation in this direction was complicated by restrictions on access to data from such services. Some of Mikayla's friends knew that she had been communicating online with people from other cities and even countries, including a man from the United States. 2 days after the disappearance, the police appealed to the public for help. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police released a description of Mikayla: height 157.5 centimeters, weight 56.7 kilograms, light hair, blue eyes. She was last seen wearing a burgundy or purple coat, a birch scarf, and jeans. The community rallied around the search. The town's mayor noted that the schoolgirl's disappearance caused great concern among the residents. The investigation began to uncover unexpected details. Mikayla's friend Oksana told the police that shortly before the disappearance, the girl had mentioned having $5,000. However, a check of the financial information did not confirm this statement. In addition, a message was found on Instagram, posted a few weeks before the incident, in which Mikayla asked to be added as a friend on Snapchat. The greatest interest was aroused by a man named Christopher from North Carolina. His name appeared in Mikayla's conversations and was known to her friends. One of them recalled that the girl had mentioned Christopher's intention to come to Saskatchewan. In an interview, Christopher himself stated that he had previously helped people with psychological problems, including self-harm, but refused to go into details. The police interrogated him and searched his home but found no evidence of his involvement in the case. Information about Mikayla's family added to the complexity. Some friends claimed that she had wanted to find her biological father, who was believed to be dead. Later, a man named Rick stated that he might be her father. The police searched his home and took DNA samples but found no connection to the girl's disappearance. Additional events only heightened the mystery of the situation. Shortly before her disappearance, Mikayla had mentioned someone named Josh, but the police were unable to establish who it was. Also, a week before the incident, the girl had received a bouquet of roses, the sender of which was later found. The police stated that this person was not involved in the case. Each new detail only increased the number of questions that had yet to be answered. The investigation continued, but many puzzles remained unsolved. Mikayla's disappearance attracted the attention not only of her family but also of the entire community. The course of the investigation began with conflicting facts that only complicated the work of law enforcement. One of the first leads was a message sent by Shelby via Snapchat. 3 months after Mikayla's disappearance, this message was read, which sparked a new surge of hope. However, subsequent messages from Shelby, sent on graduation day, remained unanswered. This heightened the family's anxiety, and they continued the search. At the time the case was transferred to the Joint Investigation Section, JIC, the police focused on examining Mikayla's connections with unknown men. Witnesses claimed to have seen her at the bus station on the day of her disappearance, next to a burly man with a tattoo of a burning cross. This person was thoroughly searched for, but it turned out that he had only held the door open for the girl and was not involved in her disappearance. In parallel, investigators checked data from social networks and Mikayla's bank records. However, the absence of a digital footprint proved alarming. In our time, this is almost an exceptional case, which only added to the mystery of her disappearance. Alongside other lines of inquiry, the police thoroughly investigated the possibility that Mikayla might have booked a hotel room, as there was a chance she had planned to stay in town. However, none of the hotel staff had seen her, and video surveillance recordings did not show any attempts by her to check in. Meanwhile, Mikayla's family members tried to support each other, but life without her turned into a constant waiting game. They organized a round-the-clock phone watch, hoping for a call that could shed light on the situation. For Paula, the girl's mother, her daughter's disappearance became a true personal tragedy. She felt guilty for not being able to protect Mikayla and ensure her safety. Paula expressed hope that the reward announced by the family would help attract public attention and bring new information about the girl's whereabouts. Thanks to the joint efforts of the community, Crime Stoppers organization, and other initiatives, the reward amount reached $25,000. During the investigation, information surfaced that Mikayla had allegedly mentioned having oxycodone, but after checking, the police found out that it was actually Accutane, a common eye medication. Additionally, one of the neighbors recalled that shortly before her disappearance, the girl had talked about having $1 million in her account, although a check showed that this statement was untrue. Additional attention was drawn to the case by data on the activation of the Missing Child Alert System in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta. Unfortunately, this measure did not bring the expected results. The police continued to receive messages from concerned citizens, but none of the 38 thoroughly verified leads were confirmed. For several months, the Yorkton community actively supported Mikayla's family, organizing various events and activities. Children's groups, teenagers, and church communities raised funds and demonstrated incredible solidarity. But despite all efforts, each day without news about the girl only intensified the feeling of helplessness among her loved ones. The key realization remained that the investigation had hit a dead end. Mikayla could be anywhere, but without new information, the chances of finding her became increasingly slim. The investigation continued, but neither the police nor the family could answer the main question: what had really happened to the girl? The circumstances surrounding the disappearance of Mikayla Barley were chaotic and emotionally draining for her loved ones, but despite the lack of tangible results, attempts to find the girl did not stop. The search began with reports of her possible appearances in various places. One of the first such signals was information that Mikayla had allegedly been seen at the Metrotown shopping center in British Columbia. Although there was no confirmation of this, Paula, the girl's mother, immediately went there. She distributed flyers, talked to shoppers and mall staff, but again to no avail. Unfortunately, this was not the only false lead. Similar reports came from Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton, but none of them led to Mikayla being found. The search area expanded to include troubled neighborhoods. In Vancouver, Paula visited the eastern part of the city, known for its difficult situation due to high levels of homelessness. Despite her fears that Mikayla could have ended up in such a place, Paula did not stop searching. She visited shelters and spoke with local residents, but again found nothing. Mikayla's family tried to cope with the emotional burden of the situation. Every day without news about the girl was a real test. Her brother and sister had a hard time adjusting to life without her. For Paula, accepting reality was particularly painful. She took time off work to fully dedicate herself to the search for her daughter. Paula was convinced that a mother's duty was to never give up. She emphasized that people do not disappear without a trace and believed that someone must know what had happened to Mikayla. The investigation officially moved to a new level a year after the girl's disappearance. In April 2017, Mikayla Barley's case was transferred to a special unit of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police that specializes in solving cold cases. This decision reflected the complexity of the situation and the lack of progress in the search. Paula faced the social consequences of her daughter's disappearance. She repeatedly stressed that no one can fully comprehend how devastating such an event can be for a family until they find themselves in a similar situation. Even everyday things like dinner or trying to fall asleep constantly reminded her of Mikayla's absence and the void she left behind. Over the course of several months, numerous false leads emerged. In particular, there was information that Mikayla had supposedly been seen in Burnaby. This tip, like many others, ultimately proved untrue. However, Paula continued to insist on the need to thoroughly check any information, considering it her maternal duty to use every opportunity to find her daughter. During this difficult time, the community did not stand aside and provided support to the family. Across Canada, events and actions were held to aid in the search for Mikayla. Paula noted that the search for one person might require the involvement of an entire country, and she expressed sincere gratitude to everyone who responded and joined these efforts. Despite all the efforts, the situation remained uncertain. Mikayla was last seen at night at the bus station in Yorkton. Since then, no reliable data on her whereabouts had emerged. With each passing day, the number of questions only grew, and there were still no answers. Paula never once doubted that Mikayla needed help and considered it her maternal duty not to give up and to continue the fight despite the lack of clarity and results. In August 2019, Paula received a phone call from a man who claimed to have seen Mikayla a few months earlier, in March, near a nightclub in Edmonton. According to him, he had started a conversation with a young woman who introduced herself as Mikayla. She gave the impression of a naive girl who did not fit in with the atmosphere of that establishment at all. This message prompted Paula to appeal to the police once again, but, as in most cases, this lead did not bring any concrete results. Let's go back to the events of July 2017. At that time, a team of divers began a survey of Hopkins Lake, located near the Secret Heart High School. Representatives of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police emphasized that this was a standard procedure within the framework of checking all possible versions, including an accident. However, the lake did not provide any clues as to Mikayla's whereabouts. A year later, in March 2018, the girl's family initiated a campaign called Last Hope to increase the reward for any information about her location to $50,000. Mikayla's mother, Paula, began to actively speak at events dedicated to the issue of missing children. She focused attention on the need to create special task forces, as practiced in the United States, for a more effective response to such cases. During the same period, thousands of posters with Mikayla's image were placed throughout Canada and the United States, intended to remind people about her disappearance. By 2020, the reward amount had halved after one of the main donors withdrew their contribution. In one of her Facebook posts, Paula expressed gratitude for any support while sharing her frustration over the lack of results despite all the efforts made. Returning to the events of August 15, 2017, it is worth noting that the search of Hopkins Lake was just one of the numerous police measures that, in Paula's opinion, did not bring any tangible progress. During the 14 months following her daughter's disappearance, about 240 potential leads were received, but none of them led to a breakthrough in the investigation. This caused deep disappointment for Paula. She often said that she could not come to terms with the fact that after such a long period, the police had still not been able to obtain new information. On July 1, 2018, Mikayla's birthday, the family organized a charity event to draw attention to her search. This date, like many others, was particularly difficult for Paula. She admitted that on such days, the hope for sudden news from her daughter became almost unbearable. Against the backdrop of all these events, in March 2018, Paula continued to actively advocate for the reorganization of the approach to searching for missing children in Canada, insisting on the need to borrow the experience of the United States. She had in mind not only professional search operations but also the general support system for families facing such a tragedy. Back in July 2017, the National Center for Missing Children had suggested that Mikayla might have crossed the border and ended up in the United States, possibly in cities like Portland or Seattle. However, no evidence to support this theory was ever found. By 2019, when 2 years had passed since the girl's disappearance, anticipation and uncertainty were occasionally replaced by brief flashes of hope. Each new message could become the long-awaited turning point in the case, but time after time, these leads turned out to be yet another dead end. In 2022, law enforcement officers from Saskatchewan, in cooperation with the Washington State Patrol, initiated the Homeward Bound program aimed at searching for missing persons. As part of this initiative, photographs of Mikayla, taking into account age progression, were placed on the trailers of trucks traveling between Mexico and Vancouver. It should be noted that the Homeward Bound program was launched back in 2005 by Renee Paget, an officer of the Washington State Traffic Police, with the goal of raising public awareness about missing people. The photographs of Mikayla on these trucks became a symbol of indomitable spirit and hope for her family. Since the program's launch, photos of 32 missing children have been displayed in this way, 3 of whom were subsequently found alive. 5 years after Mikayla's disappearance, her family organized a memorial ceremony near the high school where the girl had studied. The event began with prayers and a moment of silence, after which everyone who wished could share their memories of Mikayla and express words of support. The ceremony proved to be extremely emotional, but unfortunately, it did not bring any new leads regarding the girl's whereabouts. 6 years had passed since Mikayla went missing, and at a press conference dedicated to this sad anniversary, it was announced that the reward amount for information that would help in the search had been increased to $100,000 thanks to anonymous donations from caring individuals. The mayor of Yorkton, Mitch Hipsley, emphasized how important Mikayla's case had become for the entire community. "We are all in this together, we are one big family. We truly feel this way, because we are a small community, and that's how we act." Despite all the efforts, over 600 potential leads and messages did not lead to real progress in the search. One of the most alarming aspects of this case was the inability to access Mikayla's social media accounts. For a long time, the police could not get to her data on Instagram and Snapchat, as these companies are registered in the United States, where extremely strict information protection laws are in effect. It was only 10 months after the girl's disappearance that investigators managed to gain access to her accounts, and the amount of data that needed to be analyzed turned out to be simply staggering: 1,000 pages. Processing this information took even more time and was carried out with the support of other police units. To honor Mikayla's 20th birthday, her family organized a gathering to draw attention to the problem of missing children in Saskatchewan. The girl's mother, Paula, spoke about the fears faced by the families of those who have disappeared. She mentioned the constant apprehension that their children would turn into mere statistics and that the memory of them would fade over time. At the event, attended by about 25 people, Paula urged the government to provide more support to families experiencing such tragedies. Years passed, and the police still could not put forward even any theories about what had really happened to Mikayla. The last contact with her was made by friends, after which the girl's phone became unavailable. The situation seemed particularly strange given modern technology, which usually allows people to stay connected at all times. Investigators speculated that Mikayla might have turned to someone for help, asked for a place to stay, or money. This version remained one of the few that were considered as working hypotheses. The girl's relatives never stopped trying to find her. They actively used social networks, traveled to various places following the slightest leads, made phone calls, wrote letters, and posted flyers with the inscription, "Bring Mikayla Barley home." Mikayla's younger brother and sister experienced her disappearance especially hard. They even stopped playing musical instruments, as they could not rejoice while their sister had not returned home. The girl's brother refused to pour himself drinks, feeling a deep sense of guilt and fear that Mikayla might be suffering from hunger and thirst. Despite all the difficulties, the family did not lose hope. Paula, the girl's mother, recounted that her younger children sometimes sit on her lap and say, "Mom, I'm afraid Mikayla will forget us." To which she always replied, "She will never forget you, just as we will never forget her." The resilience and determination of Paula and the entire family in these extremely challenging circumstances continued to be an example of perseverance and strength of spirit. On the 6th anniversary of Mikayla's disappearance, another press conference was held, during which it was announced that the reward amount for any information that would help in the search for the girl had been increased to $100,000. This became possible thanks to the support of the local community and anonymous donations from caring individuals. But unfortunately, even this did not lead to a significant breakthrough in the case. The number of potential leads exceeded 1,000, but all of them ultimately proved futile. In 2023, Mikayla's family continued to organize various events and activities aimed at finding the girl. All their free time was dedicated to working on social networks, traveling to different places, responding to calls and letters. The girl's mother never stopped believing that her daughter would be found. She constantly repeated, "Hold on, we are looking for you. Come home as soon as you can." Over time, the story of Mikayla Barley's disappearance became one of the most discussed in the local community. The Saskatchewan police, together with the Washington State Patrol, launched a program in which photographs of the girl were placed on truck trailers traveling across North America as part of the efforts to find her. These images became a reminder to everyone that Mikayla's disappearance was not just another case, but a real tragedy that touched the lives of many people. To this day, investigators have not been able to find any evidence that could shed light on the fate of the missing girl. Officers like Cam Stewart admit that they constantly return to this case in their thoughts. In their words, "It is difficult to spend so much time on an investigation and then simply stop searching." Hope does not leave them, and they are always ready to respond to any new information that may help in the search for Mikayla. Thank you for watching this story. Write your thoughts about it in the comments. Don't miss the future videos, subscribe and like the channel. Take care of yourself and people you love.